This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Left right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo, the podcast.
Hey, it's SVP and Russillo. Appreciate you checking out the podcast. What a comeback by Houston. We were wrong. Mike Breen was on the call for Game 7. He was as blown away as we were and really didn't have much of an answer. Amin Elhassan says Doc Rivers is a lousy GM and takes issue with the fact that Doc said the job he inherited out in Los Angeles was a tough one. How do you view the TV finales? We talk Mad Men, Sopranos, and Breaking Bad. My one big thing on something all men should know how to do, and I did not at the Preakness. And who's number one? Not the big man most people spend all year presuming would be. Podcast starts now. All you can do is own your mistakes and eat this pile of whatever it is that we've got in front of us, because you and I absolutely clowned the Houston Rockets. I believe what we said was, the Rockets, man. If y'all don't care, why should we care? You got beat twice in a row by about 100, and I thought you were done. And I was wrong. And what I'm trying to figure out is how it happened.
I don't know. I was just as wrong as you were. I was just as dismissive of the Rockets. You lose that first game at home without Chris Paul. I'm like, you guys are done. The Dwight Howard stuff, you can have them. Harden, and then it goes from, okay, Corey Brewer and guys like Josh Smith. Yeah, you got it going a bit there in the first round against the Dallas team that just doesn't have it right now. But this is entirely a new challenge. And then you figure, okay, after getting blasted in games 3 and 4, and you're right. I mean, they got smashed, 26 and 33 points, or 25 points, 33-point loss. You knew Game 5 would go Houston's way. No big deal. Go back to L.A. And I was in my hotel room, and I'm watching that game going, is this really happening?
Well,
this is really going to happen? They're going to be up 19 and blow this game?
I came on the air Friday, and I said I did something I never do. I saw Blake Griffin hit that shot over his head, in the third quarter. They're up 18. I was tired. I went to bed because the series was over. And then I woke up, and to find out that they lost the game, to find out that Houston won the game, but that they won it with their best player Harden on the bench, and that McHale had the gumption to ride that group to the finish line was amazing. And then, look, they earned it yesterday. And so all I can do is own the fact that I was wrong, salute Houston for what they were able to do, which they deserve, and I'm baffled. I'm baffled how this Clipper team – I'm baffled how the exhaustion following the Spurs series only happened after they were up 3-1. That was an interesting play from Doc. They got tired after they were up 3-1.
Yeah, he had said, I think we looked ahead too much because we were still recovering from San Antonio. And then you're right. It doesn't make any sense because you won Game 1, you won Game 3, you won Game 4. So, what are you saying? Like you reverted back to not being over it or being too tired in the second half of this thing? I don't know how it happened, Scott. Honestly, I know I'm supposed to do the just blow up the Clippers. Chris Paul stinks, Blake stinks, Doc stinks, and everybody is to blame here. And having this kind of collapse, because it's not just up 3-1, it's up 19, ready to close this thing out. And then that loss, I guess, carries into Game 7, because yesterday, even though it got to about 3 points about halfway through the game, you just go, are the Clippers really not going to win this thing? Because I thought they were the better basketball team. But I can't really explain it. I can't believe what happened. And I don't know specifically the one thing I'm supposed to say over and over again is the main reason. Because is it the bench? Is it shot selection? Is it that after Paul and Blake, there really aren't any numbers from anybody, but DeAndre gets some numbers? Are they terrible defensively? Does Harden and Howard, do these guys have far more heart? Does this Houston team have more gumption than we thought, And the thing, you get some Houston fans going, never doubt the heart of a champion. Are you kidding me? That was 20 years ago. That has nothing to do with what happened in this series.
I'm more offended by, and let me stop. We are your piñata because we said the Rockets, and we said it repeatedly and with a laugh and a smirk on our face, and we were wrong. And you can point that out to us, obviously, because we were, but not one of you said a word in the moment. None of you. And then after the fact, Ryan, you know basketball, but you don't understand it.
True.
See,
True.
that's the key. I know that I'm not long for the show, but could someone please get me a co-host that understands basketball? Not just someone that knows it, someone who understands it. Here's what I understand, Rocket fans. You got your squad did the heavy lifting for you guys to clown us all you like, but none of you posted until it was over because you thought the same thing we thought, and that your squad was finished.
So where are you now, though, with the Clippers? Like, what do you do with them?
Well, I mean, to hear Doc Rivers talk about, man, he knew he was inheriting a tough job. You what? What? I like Doc a lot. They won 56 games. They've got a couple of really good players now. You're going to have to max DeAndre, which means a lot of your money is going to be tied up with three guys. But, hey, you're the GM. You figured out how to load that bench up with talent. Are you kidding me? You inherited a tough job. Look at Brad Stevens. Look at what the job he took on, your old spot. For Doc to say that is beyond my comprehension. And I don't know what to say about, like, Chris Paul. I look at his numbers. And I look at what Griffin did, and his numbers were really good. And you and I were just talking right before we came on the air, man. He looks like he looks like those gotta-have-it moments. He'd rather be anywhere but with the ball in his hands, you know? And then you could argue, hey, remember when he had the ball in his hands up 2 in that first series, and he decided to start dribbling it and fell down, and the next thing you know, the Spurs tied it? Maybe it's better that he doesn't want it. I don't know the answer with this Clipper squad. It becomes really easy today to say the guys that haven't done it won't. Chris Paul somehow flawed. I don't see that. But I don't have an answer for you for why this all went so sideways here.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know everybody, it feels like the public will be a lot happier if I just say to them, I hate Chris Paul. You're right. He stinks. But I can't do that. I can't. And I'm not going to because he doesn't stink. But, you know, you're right about the Doc thing. They won 56 games the year before he got there.
My man, Vinny.
That's right. Saw him this week. And you get to coach Chris Paul, and Blake is a star. I mean, this guy's a star in the league. And I agree with you about late in games. You really have to look for it where you go, okay, now this is you not wanting the basketball.
He's passing. I don't want it. You take it.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. But, you know, and Paul's numbers are good, but you're not always taking the number of shots that you want from him. And that's an issue for Paul. Like at times, you know what? Sometimes we're going to need you to not have to break down the defense to hope for that perfect pass every time. We're going to need you just to get into the offense and you start taking some shots here, even if it isn't the best look. Like sometimes as the best player, you have to take shots that at times are more difficult, especially when you're trying to come back and get a win. And he's not always going to do that.
Sad Chris Paul after the game.
Do you think you guys are closer? I mean,
No, I don't. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I don't really see the growth in the loss. You know, it's a long time till you get to the playoffs again. So,
when Doc was talking about, he said some things that were really interesting about how every year, you know, he would. This is a quote: "I was a player in the league for 13 years. I had my heart broken every year. I told him last night. I prayed every night. My only goal was I wanted to win a championship every year. I'd get my heart completely broken. I'd give it completely to the team. Every year my heart got completely broken, and I told them it was worth it." That's cool. But the other stuff doesn't make any sense. Frank Isola of New York Daily News earlier on the herd on Doc and the press.
You're not going to find a better guy than Doc Rivers, and for people in the media, he's very accessible. But come on now. If Vinny Del Negro had lost that Game 6, what if Scott Brooks had lost that kind of Game 6? I mean, they'd be getting eviscerated by people. You're up 19 with 14 and a half minutes to go. And basically, you lost to Josh Smith and Corey Brewer.
That's fair. I think about, I mean, and you and I laugh about Vinny. I don't think Vinny is Red Auerbach, but I do think that what Frank's saying right there is fair. If you're saying this stuff about how, man, it's sure tough, and I knew it'd be tough inheriting this, the 56-win team with a couple of superstars, that you had a 3-1 lead, then you're up 19 at home, Game 6, and you lose that, and you lose this game, they'd crush him, and they'd be right.
The difference is Vinny and Scott Brooks do not have a ring. So that's what happens. I mean, when you have that ring, it allows you to be a little bit more bulletproof. But I don't think there's anybody here going, hey, back off. Doc was perfect in this thing. The reason the Game 6 thing is so weird is that it is Josh Smith and Corey Brewer doing it to you. And
they sat their MVP candidate for the whole fourth quarter.
And you're going, this is really going to happen here, huh?
And it did.
It's really going to happen? And then I thought because of Doc and being through it and then Paul, I'm like, these guys. The thing about Paul now, though, is that group. It's funny how a week ago, really over 2 weeks, he hits the game winner in Game 7 and eliminates the San Antonio Spurs in what was the most impressive series win of anything we've seen in the playoffs
thus far.
And it all gets erased because of what happened in 6 and what happened yesterday in Houston.
Yep. He stinks.
I don't think it erased, but that's what happens.
I don't think it either. I just said it for everybody else out there. I'm carrying your all's water, everyone.
SVP and Russillo.
Amin, Elhassan in studio, ESPN NBA Insider. I'm bitter with you because there was a Patino game for Portland. I sent Ala Abdelnaby. It did not get retweeted. You retweet 8 billion. You didn't retweet mine. I'm salty. I just want you to know what you're walking into head on, all right?
Hey, you know what? It used to be a small mom-and-pop operation. We get 7 or 8 mentions. Now we're getting hundreds of thousands. I can't help it if yours get lost. We need, like, a VIP line.
That's what I'm saying.
We need something.
Listen, it's just speaks to the scope and the breadth of your reach now. Ryan and I led with the Houston victory for obvious reasons. You might not know, last week we clowned Houston. We said, if y'all don't care, why are we supposed to care? What explanation can you provide for how this series turned on a dime and ends up with Houston playing for the Western Conference Final?
I think, first and foremost, we always talk about when you have a chance to put a team down, you put them down. And that's why the most dangerous thing you can give them is hope. The Rockets got hope because they came out in game 5, and the Clippers kind of said, we don't kill ourselves today. We still can go back home. And you go back home and you go up, and instead of killing them in the fourth quarter, you take your foot off the gas and then you give them hope again. And now, going into Game 7, it doesn't matter that you were up 3-1 or that you dominated this team or any of those other things. All that stuff is irrelevant. The other thing is, we always knew that the Clippers, it was always a race against time for the Clippers in every one of these series, every playoff game. Their starting 5 is great. Their bench is terrible. Can their starting 5 build a lead big enough that their bench can't blow? But at the same time, every additional game, you're just a little bit more tired, a little bit more worn down, and you don't have that extra in your gas tank to go make that final push. And that's what we saw in Game 7. They were done.
When you look at the DeAndre Jordan situation, we're talking about a guy that's probably going to make 5 years, $100+ million,
Mm-hmm.
and even though he has his flaws with the free throws, and I still don't know that his defense is as great as they try to make it out to be, you have to keep him, right? I mean, it's about keeping the asset, even if he's not a perfect player.
No brainer. You just said his defense isn't as great as they make him out to be. You're right, but for them, they don't have any other options. If you let him walk, you don't have money to go out and get a suitable replacement.
It's the same thing as the Dwight thing. He wasn't perfect with the Lakers. No one really even liked him, but they couldn't lose him for nothing.
Exactly. Well, Dwight's a great player. They couldn't afford to lose him because it would send their franchise to the Stone Age. For DeAndre, he fits a role that they literally don't have anybody else to fulfill. He's the only one who can do that for them, even as some of us more knowledgeable people in the industry look and say he's not as good as an Andrew Bogut, as a Marc Gasol, as some of these other defensive centers. He's not on that caliber. But he does a good enough job for that team. And so they can't afford to let him go. Here's the problem. They are at $66.8 million right now without DJ. DJ gets a max deal, which everyone expects him to get. That's going to be around $19 million. That takes him to about $85.5 million. At that level, you're looking right at the luxury tax apron, the hard cap. So basically, they can keep DJ if they agree not to use the mid-level exception.
And it means they're coming back to the exact same team. So all the bench stuff you just talked about.
Right. All they can use are minimum deals. Or, here's plan B, you can look at either Jamal Crawford or Matt Barnes. Both of those guys have partially guaranteed deals. You could bite the bullet and waive one of them, re-sign DJ at 19, and then have the mid-level exception again to use. But obviously, those guys were productive players.
You were telling me this off air. You didn't hear this, and the listeners didn't hear this. You're good with Crawford. If they said see you, would you be cool with that?
Yeah, because he's just playing his own game. I know that you look at him as this instant offense guy, but there are times where he's shooting you out of anything.
Oh yeah,
They may keep him, though, just because they can say, well, at least we know what we have, as opposed to adding depth to a group and cutting him.
He's an either-or player. Either he's great or he's awful, and there's no in-between there. But that's still miles better than the next option on that bench. And then that next option is Austin Rivers, who, by the way, he's also going to be a free agent. And luckily for them, they are limited to how much they can pay him, because he had his team option decline. This is really super-duper cap nerd stuff. But because he had his team option decline, the most the Clippers can pay him is whatever that team option is going to be, which I believe is about $2.3 million.
Amin, Elhassan, our guest in studio. It's SVP Russillo. Ryan and I are baffled by Doc's comments that allude to the fact that he knew he was inheriting a tough job because of the fact of there was the roster and the money, and we're looking at a 56-win team that's got superstars. Man, there's tough jobs out there. He didn't inherit one. It's your job, not just to coach, but to fill out the roster, man.
Right.
We can like the guy, but think that he's wrong, and I think he's wrong.
I think he's absolutely wrong. I think, first of all, when you talk about that roster, I think Vinny Del Negro, with pretty much the same roster, did the same thing. He won 50-some-odd games. He won a division title. He got him to the second round and lost in the Game 7. We look at Vinny Del Negro as a human piñata, but Doc is this guy. It's Pop and Doc on Mount Rushmore. And I think the truth is somewhere in between. Vinny's not that bad, and Doc's not that great as a coach. Mm-hmm. He won a championship. That shouldn't absolve him for all of his other sins. As a general manager, he's terrible. Jared Dudley could have helped this team this year. He's making about $4.5 million. They sent him to Milwaukee for a bunch of salaries that they cut immediately, and they gave Milwaukee a first-round pick for their troubles. He took the mid-level exception, gave it to Spencer Hawes, and then killed him out the rotation probably about a month into the season. He gave the biannual exception that you can use once every 2 years.
This is brutal.
Gave it to Jordan Farmar, and a couple of months in the season said, "See ya, Jordan Farmar. We don't like you." Waived him as well. Doc is an awful GM. Everything that's good about the Clippers happened before he got there, other than the J.J. Redick deal. That's probably the only positive front office move he's made.
Let's look at the Houston side of this now. Did they show you enough in this miraculous comeback for you to take them seriously against Golden State?
I don't want to put it in those terms. They showed me enough to show that they're a better team than I think most of us expected them to be. But the Warriors are that's a different animal. That's a beast right there. Again, I don't want to spit the whole stats I was on last time about the 67-win teams and all, but this is a great team, a great team of this era. And I don't think anyone wants to recognize it because they look a little different from how we're accustomed to seeing great teams. The Rockets are kudos to them, tip their hat out to them, to McHale, to all those guys for being at this point, especially being down 3-1 with a 90% chance of losing that series. But the Warriors are so deep and so flexible and so great defensively that I think the Rockets are just getting overwhelmed.
I said I like Atlanta in the series, and my reasons, I don't get long-winded, but LeBron's the best player in the series. Cleveland's second best player right now is hobbled, and I like the group of Atlanta and what I think they could be able to do. Ryan's point is they have not looked very good to this stage, which he's correct on. What do you think about the Eastern Conference Finals?
I hate to be the prisoner of the moment, but I side with Ryan on this one because if they were the Hawks of February and March, I would have said, yes, I think they are the favorites, especially with the Cavs not being at full strength. But they just haven't gotten it going against inferior teams, if we're being honest. Washington and Brooklyn, those aren't teams that you should struggle to run your offense against. This is when you should be looking like the Globetrotters out there, and they didn't look like that. So to expect them to turn it on against the Cavs, who, for all their flaws, they've gotten pretty good defensively. Over the familiarity between those guys has gotten them to a point where they can guard you if you are playing standard basketball. If you can do what the Hawks did a few months ago, where they're moving and the ball's moving and it never sticks and nobody ever ISOs, then fine. But we haven't seen that through 12 games. Why should it start now?
That's a reasonable point.
When I look at that Chicago exit, I can't believe it because it's Tibbs. And when you look at Thibodeau's teams, you always at least expect a certain level of competitiveness, a certain level of toughness. So, I'm out in Chicago at the Combine, so you're hearing all sorts of rumblings about who the next guy is going to be. But when you've been around teams that have talked about making coaching changes, how much more goes into it than just where you ended up in the playoffs and ultimately what your record is?
Well, I think it's definitely a build-up. It's the relationship between the player and the coaches in the front office, and all of those things. And that decision is rarely made kind of on the spot unless something awful happens, something horrendous. Usually the front office is like, this guy's killing us. I know we're winning games, but it's not because of him. It's in spite of him. And so for the Bulls, you talk about how they could collapse in that last game that way. I always think about playing pickup, and when you're there at the gym all day long, and by that 8th or 9th game, you don't care, man. Let's just let this thing end so I can go home.
Dudes are walking to their car.
Yeah, you lose that will after a while. I think the Bulls are just mentally worn down, not from this series, not from this season, but over the totality of the Tibbs era.
I mean, appreciate the time.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
SVP and Russillo.
Looking at the Eastern Conference Finals, which starts Wednesday. By the way, Western Conference on our air. That starts tomorrow night. Atlanta won 3 of the 4, but one of them was early in the year when I can't remember. Was that the time when LeBron wasn't trying, or maybe he was gone? I forget. Cleveland season played out like a 4-act play.
Yeah, there's a weird thing in there too, where they have a stretch where I think it's their 4th and 5th nights, and Atlanta was coming off a bunch of time off. I don't know. So sometimes the season series stuff can be misleading.
When you think of the Hawks are the 1 seed, but it's been, and you called the last series between the Bulls and the Cavs, like you thought it was the Eastern Conference Finals. I understand why. As for the idea of how the Hawks could beat the Cavaliers, Al Horford was on Mike and Mike this morning.
Our defense has to be great, especially, individually. It's going to be a big challenge for us that they have. I feel like they have so many weapons, and, even guys like a J.R. Smith that's playing so well and that has so much confidence. It obviously starts with LeBron and Kyrie, and he goes down. But individually, we're going to have to be, really good in order to have a chance against them.
You don't have to soft sell it. Have a chance. I like Atlanta to win the Eastern Conference Finals.
Whoa.
I will explain why. LeBron's the best in the world, and his
top 3. I'm just kidding.
I put a list together of 5. The question is, who would I forget? He's as good a player as there is in the world. We'll agree to that, certainly. And my question then is, who's the Cleveland Cavaliers' second best player? You and I both know the answer to that, right? It's Kyrie Irving. He's at the moment he's physically compromised, and you're going up against, and he doesn't guard you a whole lot when he's right, and you're going up against a combination of Teague and Schroeder, who both are blurs. And I love the way Atlanta plays basketball. I'm not alone in this. You see the Spurs blueprint. Who knows who's from that camp? Can you get guys that can spread you out and shoot? Does Damari Carroll scare you by himself? No. Does Korver scare you by himself? No. Millsap, okay. Horford people really like a lot. But the totality of the group, I like the group better than the one great player. And, am I really supposed to sit here and be frightened by J.R. Smith? I know he's quite capable. But, I was listening to Le Batard the other day, and they were joking about, is the 4 for 23 coming? Because it's coming somewhere. I just like Atlanta better. I think Atlanta's the 1 seed because they were the best team in the East throughout the year. And I know Cleveland's, how good you're good. Cleveland's good. It's plenty good. If maybe it's better. We get a chance to find out. I'll take Atlanta.
I would be more likely to take Atlanta based on the thing you're talking about there with Cleveland if I liked the way Atlanta looked more against Washington.
Could have, should have lost. If Wall's healthy, maybe they lose. I get it. Have him look
I
great.
think they would have lost if Wall was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And how about him coming back?
How about Paul Pierce hitting a shot? I don't care if it counted or not. I don't care. I don't care that it didn't count. That guy, forever and ever. Paul Pierce, you have a seat at the OG table. That guy's unreal. I get it. They haven't looked great.
No. And that's why I'm still going to go with Cleveland.
Does the Kyrie health, where does it 1 to 10 concern? It doesn't sound like it's much of one.
No, it's a concern, but I guess I'm not just writing him off, even though I mean, look, they didn't even have him against Chicago, and that makes the Chicago series look even worse. I'm not saying he didn't play. Clearly he played. He's played in all 12 playoff games.
You were in Chicago, weren't here when to talk about that game. I mean, to see Chicago go out that way, where LeBron only scores 15 and Kyrie's on the bench, and you lose by 20-plus at home in a game that will end your season if you lose, I couldn't believe Chicago came up that small.
No, the one thing you'd always think, and we were talking at the Combine the next day about it, you expect at least toughness from Chicago. If there's one thing you expect, it's toughness. Will you compete? And instead, Dellavedova lights you up. So that's 10 playoff games to the Cavs. So Kyrie, yeah, I mean, you're right. There is concern there. I guess I just wasn't as impressed with Atlanta. And I think we've been pretty, I don't know if it's pro-Atlanta, but I feel like we've been fair to Atlanta and complimentary instead of just, they don't have a superstar, completely write them off.
I guess I don't get the sense from anybody, and haven't for the last three or 4 months, that there was a moment there where people realized, hey, this Atlanta team's different. They're winning a lot of games. When they play well, they're a lot of fun to watch. Had this game with Atlanta in their place where they both shot. The Golden State at their place where you thought, wow, if these teams met, look at this. It was like in the high 120s to the low teens or whatever the final score ended up being. But it was fun to watch. But as time moved on and LeBron started to look more like the LeBron James that you expect to see, it just seemed that people moved off even acknowledging that Atlanta was the 1 seed. And they haven't looked great against Brooklyn, and they didn't look great against Washington. I acknowledge that. I guess I'm banking on the unseen here. I'm banking on if a team truly has greatness in them, it'll reveal itself in the moments when it absolutely has to, which is against somebody that their best is required to beat. They didn't play their best against Washington. Washington was down one of their best players, and they still managed to figure out how to get past them. If I'm wrong, I'll be spectacularly wrong, and they'll get it handed to them. But I like Atlanta. Stanford Steve, tiebreaker.
I'm leaning towards Atlanta.
Is that more to do with just being who he is?
Nobody's picked against LeBron more in the playoffs the last 5 years.
Hadn't gone so well lately, has it, big boy? Huh?
How excited would you be, though, for an Atlanta-Houston finals? Does that get you going?
Humidity, dirty South.
Is that something I could interest you
in? Hey, listen, I'm a fan the same as anybody. It's not on my itinerary. I'll just be watching, observing, chatting about it here with you on the radio. I'm fine with whatever.
They would call that one of the strip club finals.
Is that what they call it?
Maybe not mainstream. We might not advertise it that way.
Print the shirts?
Like Mike Breen going in. Tune in, Game 2 of the strip club finals.
See it, the Pink Pony.
Treasures taking on the Gold Club.
By the way, those shirts coming? For real?
Yeah, we're going to get for those that followed it on Twitter, a dude actually did make Golden State shirts with me.
Print the shirts
on it.
In a V-neck.
Well, no, the V-neck thing was somebody else messing with the graphic a little bit later. So we're going to...
Oh, you didn't like the V-neck better?
Well, that wasn't... The other kid just messed with the graphic. So this other guy, we can't ask him to change his art. It's his art. So he's sending the show some... I sent him an address this week, so we're good. We're still printing the shirts.
We'd like a really soft cotton count.
What address did you give him?
I gave him my address.
Yeah, he didn't want to pay the Ansonia tariff.
Right.
It needs to be soft at the touch, though, or else,
I think they might be soft. I'm not too worried about it, and I'm even more excited about print the shirts if it's Houston than Atlanta. Are you kidding?
SVP and Russillo.
Did the build-up pay off for the Madman finale?
I liked it. I did. And yeah, I think you always get nervous about finales because they never give you everything you want. Like if you spend years investing time into these characters, then you want to know the answers to all of the storylines that are brought up in a show, and then you want to have some kind of an idea where they're headed the rest of their life, right? Because you connect with these people, and the characters are so good in Mad Men. I love the show. I don't know that the final season, this past season, it wasn't my favorite one, but I've learned I try not to be too hard on the finales because no matter what happens when it's Breaking Bad, a show you love, the Sopranos finale that we're still talking about almost 10 years later. Like I learned to appreciate the Sopranos finale more after the fact. When I watched it in a hotel room down the street, in that moment, I was mad.
What?
I was mad because I didn't really get it. I thought it was kind of an easy way out where you were just left to go, we have no closure whatsoever. You want some closure in these shows.
You decide, right?
Yeah.
I don't want it to be ambiguous in the end. So, and I didn't watch Mad Men, so it was interesting to see people that, of course, everyone is trying to have the most clever thing to say. I started to tweet but did not, that watching everyone else tweet about Mad Men, I feel like Taylor Swift listening to rap. I'm nodding my head, but I don't know what the hell you're talking about. All right. Yeah.
And you would love the show. I mean,
you
would absolutely love it. So maybe one day we'll put that.
Put that on the list.
Put that on the list.
How is it that I did watch Breaking Bad? I don't know how.
Because you were in on it early. Because you were in on it early, you didn't feel like you were being left out, and then that was your flag.
Tell me about the Sopranos thing, because what I find interesting about that in retrospect is that initially David Chase resisted because everyone was going to dissect that and give it their meaning, and if you were the guy whose creation it was, that would probably be ultra annoying for everyone else to say, here's what he was trying to do here. Hey, shut up. It was my show. All right? I know what was going on when we were dollying and that guy walks to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. But then it seems to me after the fact where Chase had always contended, no, Tony didn't get whacked at the end. The most recent Q&A I'd seen with Chase, he all but said that's what happened.
Yeah, I'm with you. And in the moment I go, I wanted more. I wanted more closure. And then I realized, I'm the one that's being a jerk. He's leaving this. It is really a great way to end The Sopranos when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we have to have our hand held here. We have to see Tony be shot. And you're right. Chase used to get so annoyed about it. And then that book that I got for you, Brett Martin, the author, Difficult Men, and he talks about the creation of all these shows, this new generation of television the last 15 years is Oz, Sopranos, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, The Wire. It's awesome. It's a great book. If you're into that kind of stuff. And other people that worked on The Sopranos are like, yes, Chase hated the idea that after the show, I think we're, 8 years past the finale, that people were always obsessed with this. You're right. He's been more forthcoming about what we were supposed to gather from that last scene. But Mad Men, they tied up actually a lot of loose ends. They did. And you want to know, okay, well, does this mean Don Draper is doing this now moving forward? I mean, did he find himself at a commune because he goes and starts crying? And, I don't want to, it's only the next day, so I can't get too far into it. I don't want to do spoiler stuff here. But I liked it. And I don't know that we can ever I don't think we can ever have a finale where all of us are happy, especially with a show you love that much.
It's SVP and Russillo, presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot. Even if you have insurance with another company, see how much you can save before you switch. I think that's the key, is that when people invest emotionally and they subscribe their own belief system, meanings, whatever, to these characters, they have some need to have answers. And the thing where Breaking Bad, which was the critics' darling, did get a little bit of pushback was that folks all said, well, wait, how can you have so much nuance and so many layers, and then in one 90-minute or whatever episode, we conveniently tie up all these loose ends in a way that it makes sense? That would be an impossibility, and I'm sure if you're the Mad Men folks, that'd be a ridiculous thing to try to do. When something has moved at a certain pace, to then suddenly go to warp speed in the interest of the end, I would think it would be incredibly difficult to do. And so, I mean, Draper's the guy, right? I mean, that's the guy you need to know about.
It's actually a pretty great point from somebody who didn't watch the show, is that it moves slow at times. It could move really slow. So every now and then I'd be, friends of mine that didn't watch it, and if I knew them, like my father, I'm always thinking, hey, you should watch this. And I go, boy, you're going to hate it, though. There are going to be stretches where you just despise the fact that it's moving this slow. So it didn't do that in the finale. And it was a great television show. They really let that group do what they wanted to. When you read about what AMC did, and they basically allowed a television show to shoot 1-hour movies, and the budget was through the roof. Those guys got to do whatever they wanted for a show that people turned down for 8 years. I mean, it's crazy when you think of the history of Mad Men, and this guy who created it worked on The Sopranos, so it's not like he didn't have some awesome resume, and he has this show about ad execs that no one wanted to do, and then once they did it, they killed it. I mean, you hate to say stuff like it changed TV, but the way it was shot and all that stuff, like that wasn't a TV show. It was unbelievable. You would understand because you took film class.
Some cinema. I have some foreign film. It's just, again, it's just about subtlety. You need to be hit over the head with things. You just have to let things sort of soak for a while. I was always, whenever I'd see a story about it in like a men's periodical or whatever, I was always fascinated by
FHM,
any of them. The way that every single detail was to the absolute letter.
Yeah, right. They would go back and study the time period and then would connect it. So if you're older, I mean, it's older, the people that watch it that are, say, 20 years older than us, it must be awesome because you're reminded of all these things in American history and how people reacted to it.
Give me a letter grade. Solid B for the finale, you
yeah,
feel like?
give it a B.
All right.
San Francisco, you haven't watched it yet, right? Are you caught up on the season?
No, I'm not.
I was behind, and I banged out like 3 or 4 in a day.
Who's the hero here? That
yeah.
guy?
You're welcome, America.
Yeah. All right.
SVP and Russillo.
No, for real.
I was back on the homeland, the stomping grounds, back in the DMV for the weekend at the Preakness, and I was mentioning a while ago the sort of rules to be a man. Esquire Monthly has certain things that a man ought to know how to do. The idea that you ought to be able to mix a cocktail, you ought to understand how to tip correctly, you ought to understand how to tie a knot, a Windsor knot, if you like. Certain things a man should know how to do. Well, I'm at the Preakness on Saturday, and I realize that there's a basic for a man, particularly a man who isn't afraid to fire on a game. I've made that pretty clear. As a youngster, I developed a sweet tooth for the 3-team teaser. That wasn't really good. If you were to deal me, say, 2 cards and I had 13 and the dealer had a 6, I would understand that I don't need another card because my goal is not to get to 21. My goal is to make the dealer get to 22 because if the dealer gets to 22, we all get paid. You understand what I'm getting at? I understand basic blackjack strategy. I understand how a lot of stuff works. You put me at the window in a horse track and have me speak the language I need to speak to explain what it is I wish to bet on, and I don't know what to say or do. We had groups that had assembled where we were kind of wagering as a group. We had a syndicate, if you like. And in the spirit of wanting to be riding with the squad, I'd go up there and I'd say, okay, I think we have the 1, the 4, and the 8. Well, what do you want to do with it? I don't know. Bet on it to win money. And then a bunch of the people would come in, but not in the right order, and I guess I never had the winner, so I'd walk up with a ticket like it was like, hey, I got the Powerball, right? Do I get $2 back? And finally, the girl just looked at me, she's like, nah, baby, you don't understand how this works. And I'm like, yeah, I do. This is some bull. I don't ever win anything. So what I'm getting at is, at this late stage of life, despite the fact that I have a sweet tooth for gaming, I have no idea how to bet on a horse race. And I didn't know that I didn't know until it would be like if I was expected to speak fluently in Spanish and then the time came to speak and I went, yo soy Scott. Or to play the piano when I started going, dun, 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 and I couldn't even do that part. So I'm embarrassed to admit this. But anyway, there it is. I don't know what the words are.
I'm with you. I don't know either.
Stanford Steve, where did I fail? What did I need to do? How come do I have to have the winner?
Yes.
What if I got second and third and I boxed it up?
No. There's different ways you could take horses to win the race. Yeah, I think
I'm kind of
take
kidding.
horses to win. So that's just one horse.
No, don't want that.
You don't want that. You want to try and pick first, second, and third place.
Yeah, but if you get second and third, it should be like the Powerball. You get like $1. You get $1 back.
You have the winner.
But I got second and third. Show and place, doesn't that count for something?
Yeah,
place
you
and
bet
show.
That alone horse to come in the money.
Show and prove.
We were in Denver a year ago. Because one of my friends has a piece of a horse, and we went after golfing.
Oh, you're friends with a horseman?
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody else. Doesn't McShay have a part of a horse?
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah. I think 4 horses.
Exactly. He has a stable we don't even know about.
Right. And he likes that he loses money on it. He's not even afraid.
Sure, because it shows how wealthy you are. You don't even care. That's how wealthy I am. I'm in the pony game.
So
sorry, I'm interrupting.
No. It's fine. But we had a group of guys that weren't real smooth, and the lady behind the window was so mad. She was so mad at us. She's like, "Do any of you guys know what you're doing?"
Nope. And
I knew the winner. Like, I wouldn't go. I get second and third. The Powerball analogy is perfect Do I get another $2? Do I get to play again?
That isn't a joke. I was pretty sure that if I had second and third, I counted for something.
I just love that. You were definitely 100% sober.
I was the one person there who was sober.
One out of all the people that this same lady at the window was probably dealing with. So can you imagine the stories of what those people were telling?
Yeah, this one guy, this one sober kid, didn't have any idea what the rules were, and he kept thinking, bless his heart, that until I finally just gave up. And then, and this is the best part of the story. Then, Brother Felica, he's got the what for, he gave me the right 3 horses in a race. So if I would have, and it came in. So if I would have had that boxed up, I would have won a lot of money, right?
Yeah. He also gave us the winner in the race before the Preakness too.
I didn't.
That was a nice one.
I did not manage to dock the boat on either of those. I just kind of gave up because I thought I didn't know how to do it.
Doesn't sound like you though.
Nope, it doesn't. But you know what I did? I ate a boatload of crab cakes. Enjoy the hospitality.
Real ones?
Yes, as I always say, if somebody gives you a crab cake and it's flat and it has red and green peppers in it, then you should throw that hockey puck at whoever served it to you and dare to call it a crab cake, because it is not. A crab cake should look like you put it together in your hands, and it should be very loosely held together. That's what we had here. I ate a lot of them. And then it rained biblically.
I saw, yeah.
That was a bad scene. Stanford Steve, how embarrassed are you for me to admit that I'm admitting this?
Kind of embarrassed because on Friday, Felica and I were both in the studio with you saying, whatever you need to know, shoot us a text and we could coach you up through this. And maybe my phone wasn't working, but I didn't get one text from you.
I didn't want to admit that I didn't understand the basic language required because I thought it would be a funnier.
No, that sounds like you.
I just thought it would be a funnier segment, just to tell everybody here that I don't know how you say the words in order to represent what your intentions are with the ponies. Live and learn.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
right through the World Series.
For the 3rd time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You were in Chicago last week for some of the NBA Combine, the NBA Draft Lottery tomorrow night.
Yep.
Now, you hit me up with some sizzling hot takes and some nuggets of news. The biggest headline of which was the number 1 pick in the June draft will be
Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think that the Okafor-Towns debate is even a debate, really. And it looked like it would be really the first half of the college season. It's all Okafor, and then all of a sudden Towns starts coming on, and he was just hitting every shot there at the end of the regular season. It started to show more of his game, I think, in the tournament. And guys that watch him in high school swear to me all the time, like there's so much more to his game than he even had to show when he was at Lexington.
And the interesting piece that I had heard that I know you, I believe, saw some, or at least, I don't know if you saw it, but his ability to stretch it out to range.
Yeah.
Legit range, because all you saw him do was all he was asked to do and what was necessary in college, and that's just own the block, turn to his left shoulder and shoot hooks, and then block shots. But if he can stretch it out with range, well, that's not something that Okafor's range doesn't stretch out to the three-point line.
No, and there are times where you debate this and you go, I like this guy. Like last year I went back and forth on the Wiggins-Jabari thing almost the entire lead-up to the draft. And,
I remember that, but we all did.
Right, because Jabari was, I thought at the time, the better basketball player. And then right before the draft, I'm going, you know what, I think I'd go with Wiggins here. And they both look like they're going to be really good. You know, Jabari unfortunately gets hurt this year. I would not mind having to get Okafor. If I was sitting there at 2 or 3 and I end up with Okafor, I'm happy because I think there's so many things there that you love. And when you're talking to some people out there and you're going, what do you think happens at the top? It's basically the only thing that prevents Karl Anthony Towns from going number one is depending on who gets that pick. And some people think Flip Saunders, Minnesota, still would prefer Okafor over Towns. Most teams, I would believe at this stage, and we'll find out more, obviously, as the lottery gets settled tomorrow, would prefer Towns. But then the weird stuff starts happening with Philadelphia. What if Philadelphia ends up with two? If the Sixers are sitting there, Towns is off the board at the real draft at the end of June, and then it's Okafor or Moutier or D'Angelo Russell, could you have a scenario where a wing is taken before Okafor if it's a team like Philadelphia?
Or could you trade it for 15 second-round picks?
They have 6.
Yeah, but then you'd have 21 second-round picks in the future. I'm obviously being a jerk. But because they're set with, or at least you'd think presumably set with Embiid and Nerlens Noel in Philadelphia, you'd think you'd definitely be looking at maybe you move backwards.
Yeah.
Try to get yourself a guard.
That gets scary when you start doing stuff like that. If you're Philadelphia and you can take Towns, you take Towns.
That's it.
Yeah, I would think so. But I got to talk to Sam Hinkie a little bit at the Combine. Wasn't like he was like, well, Ryan, I'll take Towns. And he wasn't telling me any of that stuff. But it was interesting because you're just talking about, his run now for 2 years and how people have responded to it.
Does he like our show?
I don't think he spends a lot of time listening to our show.
Well, then I hate him.
Nope. But it is kind of funny though when you think about tanking and how it works for teams. Where if a team basically tanks for a year and then it doesn't work out with the draft pick, then what's the next move to stop tanking? If they were the team that goes, well, what are we going to do? It doesn't work out 1 year and we haven't totally turned around the franchise, so now we're just going to sign a bunch of veterans to pricey contracts to use their cap space. So,
is there some limitation on how many years consecutively, or do we just stink in perpetuity?
We stink until we don't stink anymore. I think that's what the Sixers are doing.
It's SVP and Russillo here on ESPN Radio. So is that who you like better? You feel like
I need to watch more Towns. I need to see these because apparently he's going to be working out in L.A. I don't know if that's this week, but I won't be out there for that. But the workouts, and you can roll your eyes all you want, but apparently the workouts are incredible. But I feel like Okafor somehow in the process gets dismissed. Now we're starting to look at him and all the things we don't like about him, and I don't think that's fair because I think Okafor's going to play for a long time, and there's no way a kid with that footwork and those hands is going to be a problem. Like I don't think he's going to be a negative for you as an NBA player.
I'm always interested in a name that comes out of the Combine whether it was in seeing the guy in person, something they did, like, Connaughton the Notre Dame kid jumps 44 inches, and people are like, wow, so he's got a 96-mile-an-hour heater, and he jumps 4 feet off the ground. This guy is an athlete. And remember when he was on with us, he said he got basically doubted his whole life. I don't know if he's the answer to this question, or was there a guy that people really left Chicago more impressed with than maybe they arrived?
Well, here's the problem. No one playing in the scrimmages was a high-profile guy. I mean, the Harrison twins played in the scrimmages.
Dude, Des Wells, he hit there.
Des Wells did play.
Better the second day, Des. You keep grinding, kid.
I don't.
So what's the benefit of the what?
You get everybody there. Everybody gets interviewed. Everybody does their medical, and they do all the athletic testing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was going to sit there and tell you Joe Young of Oregon, really impressed, we're talking about somebody that still probably doesn't go in the first round.
Really?
So yeah. So I don't think it's fair to sit here and talk about the guys that really turn heads when it's a group of second rounders fighting for their lives out there.
I'll take Joe late first. I just think that guy can play. But I was predisposed to think that before you even went to Chicago. So what's the scene? Give me the scene, because you've been out there working. Now you're just out there I'm just out there networking. I'm just trying to I have to admit, when I would sit here and think, because it was one of my buddies like, where's Ryan? I was like, he's in Chicago. Goes, oh, is he doing that thing? I said, nah, he's so what's he doing? Just hanging out? I'm like, I don't know.
Pretty much, yeah. So I
wasn't.
This is the first time in 5 years I wasn't hosting the Combine. They changed things up this year, so I just went, man. It was important for me to go. I'm doing the draft for us, and hopefully do a little TV stuff, depending. But a lot of things have changed. But yeah, I just sit there and I watch guys, and then you let the execs loosen up a little bit. You don't want to just sit right down next to Joe Dumars first day.
Backslap. Hey,
yeah. Joe D. What do you got for me? Give me 5 sleepers.
So who did come up to you?
Oh, I don't know. Some guys. It is funny, though, when a guy with a team comes up and says hi to you. But everybody's great. Like, I spent some time with Brad Stevens. Celtics had about 12 media members there and about 10 front office people. So they were locked in. And, yeah, I don't know. The second day I did more kind of hobnobbing and stuff. And the first day I watched the players. Because for me, I'm a little behind in the process because I didn't know what I was going to be doing this year for the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do you want to know? Like, it doesn't get weird. It's not like everybody's pretty nice, Well,
no, like I don't picture you in there wearing like high knee socks and shorts, just like going, all right, like trying to work your way into the circuits.
One of the trainers that knows me though did want me to do the athletic testing. He goes, "Come on, he goes, let's get you on this stuff. Let's see how you test out." He goes, "Do you think you can beat everyone here in one of the categories?" I'm like, I don't know, because like if I don't, then who wins? Not me.
I was asking
like outsider right there during the hoop game.
I was asking Baltimore if from one of the Under Armour folks if I would like to go out to Indy next year and run like against Eisen. To which I said, if you listen to the show, you know that I can't identify the last time I ran at top speed. I don't know the last time I sprinted. So our show collectively thanks you for the gear. It was cool for everybody. I'm pretty sure Outsider Mike wears only the stuff that he got. But I did not make some deal where I have to sprint.
I understand. And that's kind of Rich's thing, too, right? You don't want to jump back.
Exactly. That's what I said. I said, that's kind of the thing he does every year. I mean, and if I just show up and say, hey, hey, Rich, you running today too, pal? Give him the old finger gun and a wink. See you at the finish line. No. Because I'll blow a hammy, and if I'm losing, I'm going to pretend like I blow it anyway. So then you won't believe that it's a real injury. What would you be good at if you were working in the combines? Like it's just when you're doing drills in Chicago, what would you where would you thrive?
Probably the only thing I do well in is the bench. But
you dominate.
It's only 185 at the NBA, right?
185. So they were trying to figure out a number. They're like, let's do it.
What's the SVP and Russillo over under on Ryan 185 bench? Starts with a 2, right?
I was going to say 3.
I don't know.
30-something reps of anything's a lot.
You could definitely do 30.
I don't know. I've never done it. We put 225 on it.
Yeah.
So now we have 2 events, you and Outsider. We got to just put some 25s on for you after we do Outsider.
That's right.
I'm saying this right now for the world. Outsider ain't lifting a weight until Russillo smashes a drumstick, okay? I'm not letting anybody shame Outsider into walking over there to the gym and try to put a couple plates up before my man puts down a plate of Hungry Man. That is only just.
You know what was funny, though, is when I rolled in there at the athletic testing, because I know a couple of guys, and look, everybody's really friendly, and it was fun to go to, and they were like, man, we thought Katz was more athletic, and we hooked him up to all the stuff last year. They're like, you could see his first step, no explosion whatsoever. And I was like, whoa. And I just told that story on the air.
SVP and Russillo.
Mayo's the best condiment. Mike Breen joins us, Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Mike, thanks for taking the time. Looking forward to this Western Conference Finals. As a play-by-play man, please correct me if I'm wrong. My guess is you go in calling what you see, not calling what you'll expect to see. How did this series and the way it finished jive with what you thought you'd see?
You're talking about the Houston Clippers series?
Yes, sir.
I agree with what you guys were just saying. It's just puzzling what happened in that. One of the strangest series I can remember in terms of disparity of performances from both teams. James Harden said after the game, talking to Lisa Salters, how nobody believed in us, nobody gave us credit. Well, they didn't deserve any belief after the way they got just hammered in games 3 and 4. And looked like they were ready to pack it in Game 5, the game that they came back and won, for crying out loud. So it really was a strange series. It showed, obviously, that Houston, when they want, they can be mentally tough and bounce back, and it showed that right now the Clippers mentally are a fragile team because that one quarter destroyed their psyche.
Mike, as you watched them yesterday, did you get the sense, as Ryan just said, that they felt defeated before it even began?
No, I didn't feel that way just because Chris Paul didn't feel that way. And as long as you have your best player going out, and he was doing everything possible to try and get his team, come on, jump on my back, let's go. But when they got first hit with the first haymaker, energy? Where's the desperation of a Game 7? So I thought there was a hangover on certain players that it just seemed like they're thinking, uh-oh, if this shot doesn't go in, we could be in trouble. You know, and if you're thinking that when you're about to release a shot, you're not headed in a good direction.
Mike Breen hanging out. It's ESPN Radio. So how do you help us? Because we've been at it for almost 2+ hours trying to figure out what happened here. Like, what is it to you? Where did this thing turn, other than the obvious comeback in Game 6?
It's a tough question to answer, but again, I go back to it's just a matter of with 3.5 minutes to go in the third quarter of Game 5, the series was over. It was over. And then that mini run to end the third quarter, I think it was like a 9-3 run to end. So it goes from 19 to 13 in like the blink of an eye, and that little spurt gave the Rockets some hope. So then they have this incredible fourth quarter, and there are losses that are devastating. This one was a devastating, deflating, crushing, whatever adjective you want to use in terms of how it affected this team, and I think it really exposed them as a team that doesn't deal with that kind of adversity very well. And you know, it's all about momentum in the NBA playoffs. So I don't have a great answer for you. I just, because I'm still completely thrown off by it, by how one team was so dominant and let one quarter absolutely knock them off their games.
That's about where we're at with this too. So don't feel bad.
So if you're looking for answers, right. I'm not your guy.
All right, then how do you feel like they match up against Golden State, this team coming off of this kind of win in the second round?
Well, the difference between, I think, this Rockets team and Rockets teams of the past is they have the potential to play really good defense because they have individual guys who are committed to that end of the floor. Trevor Ariza has always been a really good defender. Corey Brewer, although he gambles quite a bit, he plays with such energy defensively. Obviously, we know Howard's a defender. And don't discount the 15 to 20 minutes he plays. Pablo Prigioni is such a committed defender and so clever. So you have guys now who really like to defend. So I think they can give Golden State a little bit more problems than people expect. But at the same time, they're just not consistently at that level defensively. As we saw in the Clippers series, there were some stretches where the Clippers didn't even look like, or the Rockets didn't even look like they were trying. And that was even in part of the first round as well. So they don't have that consistency defensively, I think, to slow them down. But they're much better defensively than we give them credit for.
Mike, I want to ask you about the broadcast team, and with Jeff and then, of course, Mark Jackson. And Mark's already done a ton of Golden State games, so I guess I'm surprised that it's getting so much attention. Maybe it's because it's the Western Conference Finals. But that Mark will be calling the games of a team that he was just coaching, as we all know. How does that dynamic work for you? And it seems like people are, I don't know, I feel like I'm reading more stuff where people have a problem with it, which I think is kind of surprising because, again, he's called so many of the games this year already.
Well, it's not an easy thing for him to do, right? And I think he's handled it so well. He's already, he's talked about how Steve Kerr was his Coach of the Year candidate. They got a lot of notice about when he said Harden was the MVP over Steph Curry. That was just his opinion. And then they thought that Curry and Mark had a falling out, which is, there's nothing further from the truth. They had one of the nicest exchanges and embraces before the first game he did following that MVP vote that I've seen. Those two are close, that nothing's gonna affect that. But it's still a hard thing to do. I mean, he was an integral part of building that franchise back up, and he helped set the foundation. And now you're watching them take off. I don't think any of us would handle that well, but he's done it well on the air. And, there's certain players that he had great relationships with and certain that he didn't, like Andrew Bogut. They didn't always see eye to eye. But that's with any coach. So it's hard on him. I will say this. I remember doing the 2009 finals with Jeff, and his brother's the coach of the Orlando Magic. And they're getting hammered in what's turned out to be the clinching game. And I remember, getting excited about a couple of Kobe Bryant moves, and I'm pumping up the voice, and it's a big moment. And I look next to me, and there's Jeff, and he is absolutely depressed and miserable. Now, it didn't affect what he said on the air, but it affected me in terms of here I'm hooting and hollering about a big play, and he's going through pain for his brother, which we all would do if our brother was going through a difficult thing. So it's an interesting dynamic. Mark handles it so well. And it's just, it's part of the scenario for this year's run.
ESPN 9 Eastern tomorrow, the Western Conference Finals begin. Mike Breen will be on the call as always. And just a final thought, I'm a venue guy, and I'm always interested in how you would describe Oracle. Others have said it's the loudest NBA arena. It's much like a collegiate environment. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I would say Oracle and probably the Oklahoma City arena are the two loudest right now. It's like a party atmosphere. It's really cool. In that they're having a grand old time. They enjoy everything from the in between timeout things that they do to the game, and they're a proactive crowd. They don't wait for the team to start going on a run to get fired up. They're the type of crowd that if the team's struggling, they're going to do their best to lift them up. Right now it's probably the best crowd in the NBA.
Can't wait to watch. A lot to celebrate out there. They got the best player in the game. They've had the best record, the best home record, and we'll see if Houston can ride that momentum. And, Mike, we appreciate the time. Look forward to listening to you and the fellas all the way through the finals. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Scott.
It's our pleasure. That's Mike Breen, Subway, Fresh Take Hotline. Try the new guacamole at Subway and turn up the flavor to all your favorite sandwiches. Subway, eat fresh. Again, Clay Thompson will join us bottom of the hour. I want to ask him about half-court shooting. You said that shot that Steph hit the other night, it was in between, a little bit less than three-quarter court. Like, if those guys shot 10 half-court shots unguarded, how many do you think that they would expect to make? 3?
For Steph, 10. The best part of that shot is he knew it was going in. When he gives you that little lean, that's him saying, out of my hands, this actually feels pretty good.
We were watching that as a group before the show started, and that's exactly the thing. I stopped looking at the ball because I knew it went in from the highlights. I stopped looking at that and wanted to get a look at him, and you're exactly right. The minute that those shoulders start leaning, he knows. Buckets, right?
That's what I saw. We used to get yelled at for I always youth leagues and stuff, and guys would just sit there and take half-court shots. You just be like, you're practicing something you're never going to take.
I wish I would have practiced before North Carolina. I'll never get over how bad I was there. Online, just firing rocks at the backboard. Just horrible. No touch. Horrible.
Oh, you're talking when you did it for
SportsCenter.
SportsCenter.
Horrible. Not a horror
suit, though?
No, dude. I switched into a shooting shirt.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I switched into
bring that back.
Do what?
That video for the people in case they didn't see it.
We don't need to revisit that.
Okay.
I'm describing for you what happened. It was a horrifying sequence.
Some people missed it.
Did you keep shooting too way later than everybody wanted you to because you just had to get one in?
What do you think the answer to that is?
Yes.
You were right. And I would have kept shooting. I would have kept shooting forever if I think I shot after the show ended, and the lights went out. It was awful.
SVP and Russillo. Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.